Helen sila lumen momentielvo, a star shines on the hour of our meeting. Hello friends, I'm Narelon, Starfire pronouns he, him, welcome to the stream. It's Tuesday, which is of course Minecraft Day. Couldn't be anything else, could it? So that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be playing some Minecraft, which I think you've all come to expect by now. Hope you're having a good day today. Hope Tuesday's treating you as moderately well as a Tuesday ever can. We've talked at length about how Tuesdays are kind of rubbish, aren't they? Although I never minded them as much when I was a kid, and I don't know why. But anyway, there we are. Hope you're all having a good day today. I'm off work this week, so it's been a nice one. Although, I look ahead and, you know, won't be like that this week. Next week, will it? Of all the Tuesdays, this was certainly one of them. Well, I'm glad it was. Hi, Bira. Hope you're having a good day today. Are you alright? I love that phrasing, by the way. I think I first saw it in reference to Morbius, the film. But that of all the films, this is one. And things like that. That formulation. Okay, this is very dangerous. This is a very dangerous position to be in. I don't want to be here. Slight work annoyance, but overall not so bad. Not bad so far this day. This day or week. Sorry, I was running while I was trying to read at the same time. And there's a bed in here somewhere. There is. That's good then. I'm glad it's not been too bad so far this week or today. So you had a work annoyance though. Work is very annoying, isn't it? Why is that? I don't know. Back to safety. But yeah, I've been off work this week, so I'm... Whoa. Okay, Golem's miles away, but alright. But yes, I've been had like a relaxing week so far. I've been doing, I've finished painting the two... Okay, where's that though? That sounds very close, doesn't it? Oh, okay. Okay. Can't be having drowned wandering around, can we? I mean, as long as we don't get a trident incident, I don't mind. But still, that's something that needs addressing. Yeah, just other departments, not like my department, know things at the proper time, so we all end up scrambling to meet deadlines and half-arsing jobs. Yeah, I'm familiar with that feeling. I just realised I better turn on the old thing, hadn't I? So that my phone don't make any annoying noises. But yeah, I'm well familiar with that. It's very annoying, isn't it? When I used to work in... which is the swim path? There we are. When I used to work in patient records, that was forever. I'd get a phone call from, I don't know, urology. And they'd say, where are these notes? I'm like, what notes? Now, the notes we need, patient's here now, and we're still waiting for them. Like I said, well, what patient? Like, we on with? Like everything we know about, we've done. And they're like, oh, right. Well, we should have, someone should have told you. Well, they hadn't. Then we have to go stop wherever we're doing and scramble around and try and make sure they got these notes. And yeah, always very annoying. Let's try something. Oh, you can do that way around, that's fine. And it didn't just used to be urology, it was so many departments where they'd add a patient on and not tell us, and then express surprise that we didn't know that they'd added a patient on, even though they'd never told us. It was always very annoying. So yeah, I can definitely understand that. It's always rubbish, isn't it? Right, well, I was doing something last week and I can't think where it was. I mean, I have a horn because We were celebrating the opening of that new monument. Hence why I've got carrying a horn. Not that I've got a horn, I'm carrying a horn. But why? What else I'd got planned? I had just realised that the transit tube is too narrow. So we're gonna have to get some silk touch tools and like knock down half of it and expand it outwards, which is fine. It's a bit of a chore. I'll need a lot more glass. But it's fine. It ruins the nice symmetry I'd got going. I guess all I got to do is put when I expand it outwards. If I just put another set of stairs sticking out, that'll be fine. But I need to like walk the length of the track now and see which direction I can expand it in. Make sure there's enough like space for an overhang and stuff. Luckily, it wasn't something that took me any time to do, but they had 6 months to tell me about it and waited until a few weeks ago. Oh, that is annoying, isn't it? That's very annoying. All you can think is like, why not earlier? Like, why wait all this time? Yeah, that's very frustrating. No great chore to move these steps over one, is it? To bring them close to yeah, that's fine. Oh, that's so annoying. See this swathe I cut through when it used to be a railway line. Look at this. It's like some type of lemons, that does. Yeah, to just expand it out. Yeah, I think we're better off just expanding it this way, as it were. And that should be fine. I just need to check the whole length of it. Because I've got to mess around and move it the other direction. I quite like it. It's a bit... It looks a bit nonsense, but I quite like the design of the transit tube. It's this huge glass tube spanning the village. Yeah. Yeah, because that's already above all of these, so it doesn't matter which way that way goes. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, we're still going to miss everything else down here. I don't know how that golem got on the roof. I'm not asking questions at this point. Yeah. I think the only problem I can foresee with it from here is when we get to the bit where it splits up. I think we're probably going to have to redesign it slightly from that point. Because this is all fine, actually. I'm going to have to mess around with the stations a little bit, but like whatever. Here, because the rest of that is fine. But where it goes through here, we're going to need to... Which is like very much a secondary thing. I love the noises that villagers make. They're great, aren't they? I find myself doing it as well. Like, I'll just kind of be sat here going... Because that runs over the high hay, so that's not an issue. Oh, they're kind of, they're having a little chat, aren't they? Oh yeah, this is fine actually. We're probably going to have to knock that tree down. Because this has got to be wide enough. And this would be running about the back of the dark house. So we'll probably have to... Oh, they've met in the middle, look! Oh, it has happened. We wondered if this was going to happen, didn't we? They've met in the middle. That is a thing that exists. I need to do so many more experiments with this. Oh, that's fascinating. What is that? It's a stalactite has met a stalagmite. I've built them. I did it yonks ago. As an experiment, I put some dripstone under some water up here. Look. I didn't put this ladder up, by the way. I hijacked the ladder that Loomis used to build the dark house. Hey, what's up, Robert Martin? Hello. Hope you're having a good day today. Thanks for dropping by. I'm alright, thanks. How are you? Hope you're having a good day. Oh, I didn't know the game had those. Yeah, they added it in like that cave update, which wasn't that long ago. And I got some dripstone and deployed it, and it eventually formed forms like these. I can't remember now because it was ages ago that I did it. I can't remember if you have to put one of the stalactites there and it grows, or if it just grows from the dripstone. I need to recreate this at a greater height. But yeah, it's been slowly growing over time because it grows downwards and it drips water. If you've got a block of water above this dripstone, it drips downwards. So if you put a block of dripstone at the bottom, the dropping from above causes a stalagmite to grow. I like that. That's fascinating. I don't mean I've got nothing, no reason. It serves no purpose for us. It's just science. Science. Anyway. I like doing those experiments. Imagine if they had the Sims style conversations in that boy. Oh, could you imagine? That'd be so annoying. Oh, that'd sound you funny, wouldn't it? Oh, hold on. The Sims conversations, but with a they're not really growing in enough to be worth harvesting yet. How's your day going? Not so bad, sir. How about you? Are you having a good day today? I've been assembling me lorry. Well, me trailer. Not actually the lorry itself. There's a... Oh, well, that was these, though. They did a civilian lorry for Warhammer 40,000, so I've been assembling that. Which is, or the trailer at least. It's been a lot of fun. It's quite big. It's much bigger than I expected, which makes me feel a little bit better about the cost. Because I've been moaning... Well, I've been watching Kira Chats, who I highly recommend you watch, by the way, if you don't already. We're watching Kira Chats playing Baldur's Gate 3. And it looks really... You know, it's not necessarily the sort of game that I'd necessarily seek out as a computer game, because I love tabletop role-playing games. But, you know, would I necessarily play it? Because I wasn't that keen on Divinity Original Sin, which is made by the same people. Like, I enjoy it. There were things about it I really liked, but some of that kind of annoyed me. So, anyway. I kind of want. I've been watching Kira Chats play it, and I like it. Baldur's Gate 3 looks really fun, especially that character creator. I've got a terrible weakness for character creators, so I maybe want to do it. But it's 50 quid, and I thought I can't justify 50 quid on a game. But I will spend 50 quid on a model. So I don't know if that makes me a hypocrite, or if it just means I have like different standards for different things. I don't know. I'm like, 50 quid? I'm not spending that on a game. Give me a model that's 50 quid and I'll probably buy it. I mean, I'll still win set it because I'm tight. But, you know, most things I won't spend money on. There's some things I'll be known to drop money on, you know. But as a general rule, I don't like doing it. If I could get a solid steel medieval reproduction sword for 50 quid, I'd buy it without hesitation. Oh yeah, me too, definitely. I did see, when I went on holiday, there were a market hall type place. You know where there's like a market hall? I'm trying to think how that translate if you're not from the UK. They're like places where you've got, not quite stall. I mean, some of them are just like stalls, right? It's just a market inside. But usually with a market hall, what you've got is like, almost like little shops. In that little alcoves around the side. It's like not like a separate shop, but like, you know, you usually have like a stall, but it's perhaps a bit separated off. Some of them are a bit bigger. Anyway, in Whitby they've got one that's like, you know, it's almost like proper shops, you know. And they'd got one that was labelled, what was it? Antiques, second-hand goods, military curios. And just that combination filled me with a certain dread that I couldn't quite explain. But they got an air pistol. They were like 70 quid, I think. Was it 70 quid? I can't remember now. And it was like a really old one. They're supposed to be in working order. Quite nice. And I thought, well, I've never used an air pistol, and it's something I'm kind of interested in doing. They have various historical items from a certain time and place. Yes, they absolutely did. That was exactly it. Yeah, you got it, Mira. You got it straight away. And I doubt it's Tito's Yugoslavia. Yes, you immediately got that. Yep, that's exactly what it was like. And I did consider, anyway, I was considering buying the air pistol because it's like a, I'd quite like to use one. It'd be quite fun. Use it at the range because there's like an air range separate to the, the firearms range. So that'd be quite fun to do. But when I looked up close, it was in working order, but there was some corrosion on it, and I thought for that money, it's not worth it. But I would have if that had been like a better nick, or if it'd been cheaper, I guess. I would definitely have liked that. I would have been willing to spend on that. I weighed it up. I spent ages because I had a look at it and were musing over it, and then went away for a bit. Went and had a drink. Had a think. Looked up prices online, and it was much or muchness. Slightly cheaper than some, slightly more than others. Went back, had a look closer, and was like, actually, no, I don't like that. Too damaged for what I wanted. But yeah, they had quite an extensive collection of items of historical items from a certain time and place. They had a lot of those, and it was not Tito's Yugoslavia. I kind of knew when I saw the sign. I thought, I know what this is gonna be like, and indeed it was. Look at this. It's a right mess again. Look. I don't know what it is about this particular field, but it always just turns into a mess. Also, while I'm on holiday, we stop off at this nice little village called Thornton Dale while we're on the way. It's a lovely place, very, very picturesque. Obviously some money in the area, because everything's like really well kept and a bit fancy. Like fancier than you'd think for like a car park or wherever. I went in this shop that sells it's primarily a newsagents, but it sells all sorts of stuff as well. Because, a bit of a village shop, I suppose. And I was looking through the magazines, because, I like to have a look what you got there. They got quite a few historical, different history magazines and stuff. Ancient warfare and whatever. The life of Alexander the Great. I thought, well, this is fascinating. Okay, I had way more than I realised. I thought this was very interesting. And then they had 2 separate magazines, of which they had several copies of each, on the Nazis, like on the Nazi armed forces. Like, several in this village. I was like, I've never seen, magazines just dedicated to the Wehrmacht before. And I certainly didn't expect several different ones. They're like a couple of copies of each. It weren't like they just bought one in to see if anyone bought it. This is obviously something that's sold. And I found that very alarming. Why do you need to buy a magazine called The Iron Cross? What's that about? And yes, there was a magazine called The Iron Cross. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't know I was going to move through. So you see some interesting things out in the countryside. No, yeah, I was surprised. Oh, look at that, one shire each. Look, annoying. I need to figure out where my friend got a new Shanka hat with a red star on it. I had a new Shanka with a red star many years ago, but he got right tattered, and I always wanted to get another. Like I found like one of these military places and they were selling it, but it's absolutely stunk. Like I can't even tell you what it smelled of. It just smelled really funny. I didn't like it, so I got rid. Although I doubt any originals are vegan, so yeah, I'm afraid the originals are usually made out of rabbit fur, aren't they? Which is it just feels particularly awful. Like I know it's all bad and like, it feels like a bit of a speciesism. To kind of say that feels worse, but it does feel worse to me. But yeah, the originals are usually made of rabbit fur, which is horrible. Might want to make my own or find a vegan fur one. Yeah, that you can get them nowadays made of like synthetic materials. Mine was. But Yeah, making your own would be interesting because I've never been that talented textile-wise. But it's something you could do, isn't it? They're not that complicated a design, really. So that'd be like that'd be a fun project, I think. Make your own Ushanka. I've got, I think, I can't remember if I've only got one or if I've got two of the Soviet cap badges. Because we went on holiday somewhere, Lake District, somewhere at Lake District. Oh, so we've got like a really uneven distribution here. Somewhere at Lake District, and they were a shop just selling like all sorts of tat, but a whole bunch of like Soviet military, which is quite fun. Like I don't really expect to see a shop selling Soviet military. I picked up some rubles, some medals. This is when I were about, I don't know, 15. Some medals and a couple of cap badges. No, I got a cap badge from there, and I got a cap badge from an antique shop on Jersey. Went to Jersey when I was a kid, when I was about 13, and we were in like an antique shop. And I saw it, I think it was like $5 or something, and I thought, oh, I'd like that, because that when I was really in my Soviet phase. I had a Soviet phase, and we got parents like, we'll buy you. I'm bringing it back home, you know. It were on me. I had a glass cabinet in my bedroom, and it were on a shelf in there for years. Looking at sewing patterns, it seems it's usually a 3-part design with a tiny bit of complex sewing on curves, but mostly very easy to do, to be honest. See, that's good. Because essentially it's basically just a round hat, isn't it? And then with the drop-down sides. So there's similar ones, isn't there, that are like the whole back and sides is a flap, I think. Whereas, is it the Ushankas just the sides are? I can't remember. But the one. Yeah, some leftists had some leftists had a Soviet phase. Some leftists had a. Let's not go there. Yeah, I get you. I think maybe the thing to do is just start widening all this. Is that the plan? But basically, I just need 2 extra glass per square forward, don't there? From widening it, I just need one at the top and one at the bottom, and the sides stay the same. But what I need to do, yeah, okay. When I was a kid, I always remember the Atlas I had at home, because we didn't replace it for years, right? The Atlas had like a whole section on the Soviet Union. That's what started me, I think, being a little kid and like reading this like kids atlas about the Soviet Union. Right, let's see how much time. So we've not got much glass, so we probably need to get some more. Probably need to go and buy some. If we've got a tool with, what would it be called? Hobbs Touch? I think it's Hobbs Touch. Pickaxe to taking. Hobbs Touch. I think it's just Hobbs Touch. We got a spade with Hobbs Touch too. Merlin Repair, Gowarix Valor. I wish I could get some more Merlin Repair. That's the best I've ever seen. I think I just really like their unit designs in Red Alert games. That was like the second thing for me. Let's try it. Yeah, that was like the second stage. Like the first stage, Kids Atlas with the Soviet Union in. Found it very interesting. And then yeah, like fast forward a little bit. When I were about, I don't know, when did we get our PC? We got our PC in 97, I think. Probably about 1997. Maybe slightly before, maybe 96. Wait. So I remember the first games I got for PC was Seven Kingdoms. I absolutely loved it. I've ever since. And I remember talking about that when I was in year 3, maybe. So maybe it was 95. We were 95 or 96, I think. And obviously, then a little bit later, in 97, that Red Alert came out. So I definitely had it by then. I remember playing that. And of course, I'd already got this like liking of the Soviet Union, so of course I played the Soviets and I loved it. And the fellow who played Stalin looked really like Stalin, but also a little bit like my granddad, who died not that long before. So I had another tie for me as well. That's not even finished, is it? Never mind. I loved Seven Kingdoms and the sequel. The engine was actually open sourced a decade ago. Somebody else who liked Seven Kingdoms. I thought I was the only one. Like most of the time, I talk to people and say, "Oh yeah, I really like a game called Seven Kingdoms," and they're like, "What?" Somebody else who played it. I love Seven Kingdoms. I love that game so much. It worked. It worked. Excellent. Excellent. I guess I need to go to this level, don't I? I think maybe if I take like the sides off like this. This is horrifying, by the way. It's making all the breaking noises, but it's not breaking. I feel like I'm ruining the thing. I might have to post the weird shit I've been fiddling with in the open source version to the Discord sometime. Oh yeah, I'd like that. That's so fun. I didn't know it was all open source available. No, I've dropped some glass. Hold on. Wee. Hold on. I can sense a presence.
Hello.
That's the voice of Loomis of Phelan, friend of the channel, pronouns Z, them. Hi, Loomis.
Hi.
How's it going today?
Sorry I'm late. I had to take the rabbit back, but there was somebody asking you questions in chat, so I had to wait for them to announce that they were going to make you backgrounds and images.
Oh yeah, I was waiting for that too. I thought, should I ask the question, or should I just wait to see what happened? And I thought this time, let's wait to see it. Let's just let it play out. But nothing came of it. So yeah, I was waiting to.
They were good. Yeah. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Okay, I'm struggling a lot with withdrawal symptoms today.
Oh. Right.
Yeah. Coming off some meds.
Oh yeah, that's rough.
Yeah.
I have custom kingdom color palettes and also think it made it possible to have dozens of kingdoms in the game at once. I totally broke game saves and multiplayer support. Oh, that's fantastic. B-Rat first of all knows about, and second of all likes Seven Kingdoms, Lewis. Can you imagine? I'm not the only one.
But I thought you were that game was just something you had a dream about.
There is. Oh wait, this game's real all this time. I thought it was just a sequence of dreams you had in the 90s.
Wait, there really is a bot? Seven Kingdoms was literally the first game I bought on CD when I had money as a kid. It didn't even come with an original manual, but a black and white reprint. Oh, that's fantastic. Mine came in the big box. I played the demo, which came on a demo disc in PC format. Can you imagine a magazine called PC format? But that's what it was. My dad used to have it all the time, and it always came with a demo disc with like 30 programs, of which probably about, I don't know, 10 maybe would be games. And I played it on there and I loved it. It was just like one scenario. You played as Sven Forkbeard. Historical figure, by the way. Against, it'd probably be Oda Nobunaga, one of the Japanese factions. And I just played it over and over, and then it might have been for my birthday. I can't remember, but I got the box, and it used to come in a big cardboard box as they did, with a CD, a manual, and to be honest, Bira, I can't remember if it was colour or black and white. It might have been colour. It used to go on my shelves because no in-game. I mean, Seven Kingdoms were pretty good for in-game information, but not like the technical side, as I recall. Like it had a full encyclopedia of fictional elements, but not the how you actually do anything. And it had a section of advice by the creator, Trevor Chan, called Prince Trevor's Advice or something like that. They don't do that anymore, do they? I think the manual was advertised as having a purple cover. It might have been, yeah. It was like a dude in like a horned helmet brandishing an axe that looked like you were off a Frank Frazetta painting, right? But it came bundled with Settlers 2 Gold Edition, as you strapped in those days. I loved that game as well. Sorry, let me see. I'm sure you may have. I was on a roll there. You may have thought you wished to interject. Or...
No, I was just gonna say hi, Beerite. How are you doing today?
I got excited because there's another one. There's even a part in the manual that lied about game functionality. It implied if you put a unit into a village, you could later recruit them back out with their skills intact. I remember that now, actually, because that is a total lie.
I've played a couple of games like that where the manual was clearly written before the game was finished with features they planned on implementing.
Yeah. The demo didn't even have Freitans, I think, only the full game. Yeah, definitely, yeah. It just had like one scenario. I think it might have been 2 scenarios. In fact, if I remember rightly, it was one like free play mode. You know, because you normally have a thing where you just set the parameters and it plays out. And one scenario where you have like specific conditions you have to meet. It'll be like, I don't know, achieve a population score of 1,000 within 5 years or something. Whereas the free play mode is just like vanquish your enemies. Oh, I've put so many hours. And I said, other year, they were on sale on Steam for like, I don't know, £3 or something. So I bought 7 Kingdoms. And it's just as much fun as it was then. Obviously, nostalgia factor. But I think it's still really, really fun. The CGI for the intro is absolutely atrocious, by the way. Like, I mean, it's 90s CGI, but it's terrible. It's the worst CGI I've ever seen. I don't know why they put it in. You don't need it. It's not like the rest of the game looks like that either. I've dropped some glass. Ow. I need to dig up my project files this week now and post some screenshots. I remember there was an unused earlier version of the Persian unit and maybe the catapult in the game files. Oh, that's cool. And an unused building that looks like a farm. It's even animated. Oh, that's so cool. I love that game so much. I think it was the first game I played that had like that kind of depth when it came to like diplomacy and taxation and espionage. I mean, that's so many different elements like that. Oops. Oh, hold on. I've made a terrible mistake, Loomis. I hope you'll forgive me. I was distracted to about 7 Kingdoms and I've done something awful.
Did you break a pane of glass?
I did break a pane of glass, but I did something far worse, but let's not talk about it. Let's not, cry over spilt tools.
You broke one of the Silk Touch tools?
No, that'd be a silly thing to do, wouldn't it? Who would do such a thing? Could you imagine? I don't know who would even do that. Unrelated. Unrelated.
I don't know that we have a convenient way of replacing those.
Unrelated. Do we have any Hub's Touch books? Just for future reference. Oh, it's okay. Don't worry about it. We've got one. Don't worry about it. I don't know why you're making a big deal.
Yeah.
I don't know why you're making a big deal about this, though. It's clearly fine. I don't know why you... I don't know why you... I don't know why you're worried about it. What if I was to combine this Iron Pickaxe with Warrant Charm 2, with this Iron Pickaxe with Efficacy Charm 4, and see if I can put Hub's Touch on it?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Like that's just... like if someone were to accidentally break it, or, mess around and not be paying attention, maybe it'd make it harder to, like, break it, if they were being silly.
Yeah. If only we had access to mending.
Yeah, that'd be so much better. Okay. Literally no other game has had so many interlocking systems since. They even simplified things for 7 Kingdoms 2, and it made me sad, to be honest. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, they streamlined it. And I was going to actually ask you your thoughts on 7 Kingdoms 2, be right? because I really liked it. Oh, I know I should have renamed it. What did you call the other one, Lewis? Because it had a name.
Is it? Oh.
Yeah. There we go. I'm going to call it the Pickaxe of Collecting, which is, I think, approximate to what it was originally called. Actually, that's a tremendously high cost. I'm not going to do that. Why does it cost so much to change the name? When if you do it while you're enchanting it, it costs you like next to nothing.
It doesn't normally cost you that much to change the name. Normally it's just 1 XP.
Yeah, I
Or
think
one,
if you
one level.
if you're doing it like with something else, it's like, you know, like if I was putting the book on, if I'd renamed it then, I think it only adds 1. But if you do it on its own, it costs a lot for some reason. Which is very annoying. I think the only other game that had similar complexity at the time was Imperium Galactica 2, which had espionage and economics and diplomacy. Yeah, I think I heard of that, but I don't think I ever played it. You ever played Seven Kingdoms, Lewis? Apart from thinking that it was a dream I had in the 90s.
I've watched you play it. I've never had a copy myself.
Oh, we're going back to the 90s, aren't we? Like when you came round once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once as in.
I mean, like you used to do. Yeah.
I've got to say, I came around more than once.
Came around many times, and the computer were in that cupboard over upstairs in my mum and dad's bedroom.
Yeah.
Yeah, he used to come around many
And
times.
now the computer's in the cupboard under the stairs.
Yeah.
All the times have changed.
That's true. But yeah, Seven Kingdoms 2 is in some ways better. In lots of ways better. But I think I still prefer the original. The graphics were done in a more realistic style, which of course means they haven't aged as well. The more cartoony graphics of Seven Kingdoms, I think it looks like a stylistic choice rather than just aging badly, shall we say.
Like how the graphics for Final Fantasy VII are far more advanced than the graphics for Final Fantasy VI. And Final Fantasy VI still looks great. 7, not so much.
Yeah, absolutely. I did like that you could play as the Frytans in Seven Kingdoms 2.
Yeah.
Like, actually be able to play as them on, and they had like completely different game mechanics. That was really fun. Like because of course you have reputation, right, in Seven Kingdoms, and like the worse you behave, the more likely people are to turn against you because you've got a bad rep. And kingdoms are less likely to make deals with you because you've got a reputation. Whereas with Frytans, you actually gain from doing awful things because like you draw power from like committing atrocity, like massacring people. Also, that's where your food comes from. Just putting it out there. Like your food score isn't wheat like everybody else. As far as Seven Kingdoms 2 goes, I loved playing as Frytans. They had immense diversity in strategy, and I liked the secondary military unit types for humans, as well as the hero units, the items. But I didn't like that they removed ships and water entirely. Yeah, absolutely. I don't know as I use ships and stuff a lot, but I liked the option. I used to love, being able to sail around. Listen, Frytans just gain life points from village tributes. Who knows what that means? Yeah, it could mean anything. It's not they're eating the villagers, Who would say that? Sorry, go on, Lewis.
Navy always feels like the odd one out in a RTS game. Like, to go with Supreme Commander, my go-to RTS. It has really in-depth system. It has quite in-depth systems for land, air, and sea. But like, you'll get levels that don't have sea.
Yeah.
Like, you never get a level that doesn't have land or air.
Yeah.
You get levels that don't have sea.
Yeah.
There's a inherent imbalance there in the units.
Yeah. True. I tell you what else I did like about Seven Kingdoms 2. The fact that because you have what are called seats of power, that's basically like a temple, right? And you put people in it, and they like pray. They actually get better at praying, which I think is tremendously ironic. Like, there's just something very fun, not ironic, funny. There's something very funny about the idea that people need to level up their praying skill. I mean, sorry, go.
This is a whole thing that I've got thoughts on, but it could actually be quite a lengthy topic, so I'll hold off for now, but remind me on it later.
Will do. When you get to the top of the bar, in the original game, you can just use, you can summon your greater being with it at any time, right? But the longer you leave it, the more hit points they have. And they exhaust their hit points to do their magic. Whatever it might be. So, for example, if you're playing as the Egyptians, in the original Seven Kingdoms, they were added in an expansion, by the way. Standalone, as they used to be. Sorry?
The 8th Kingdom.
Yeah. 8th, 9th, and 10th. Interesting. Added 3 more. I loved the Egyptians. They were my favourite in Seven Kingdoms. And you could summon Isis. As a kid, by the way, the scanty outfit of Isis on this tiny, like, pixelated image was endlessly enthralling for me. And you can, like, click her power and put it on a village, and it just adds 30 people to that village. Because Isis is the goddess of fertility. Although that also has horrifying implications. Like, the 30 people just give birth suddenly. Like, what's happening there? Anyway, or is it 10 people? Click, whichever it is. And every time you do that, it knocks her health down a chunk, and it also just runs down while she's existing. Because a lot of the greater beings have like a passive, like is it the Japanese one? Whenever they're summoned, you can see anyone who's going to attack you or whatever. Anyone who like clicks to attack you, you can see the unit paths. But because if they were like, that's Isis is somebody you can use all the time. But if it's somebody like, I don't know, Thor, who summons tornadoes and or lightning strikes, that's what you're doing really when you're in war. And if you're at peace, you're not really using that. So you just like don't get any benefits from it. Whereas what you can do in Seven Kingdoms 2 is when the bar gets full, you can invoke a blessing, and like a random event occurs. And there's a chance that nothing will happen, in which case it only takes up half the bar. But otherwise it'll be like, a peasant has discovered a hidden cache of gold and gladly turned it over to you, and you'll get like, a big chunk of money to your treasury. And the bar resets and off you go again. Egyptian fire arrows were OP. Yeah, the Ra arrows, as I recall. They were so good. When you get leveled the Egyptian like soldiers up to a high enough point, every like 4 arrows or something, it was quite frequent, that they fired was one of these like flaming arrows that gave out like a little area of effect damage as well. Like where it hit, it exploded. And they did so much damage, and it kept, because fire in Seven Kingdoms keeps burning, so it does DOT as well. And that's just so OP because they fire quick. That's the more you level them up, the faster they fire, right? So they fire arrows quickly. Occasionally, these are literal fire arrows that do damage over time and area of effect. Like, come on, let's go. If you abuse the UI, you tell it to bless a village from a little distance away, and then click it again and wait for it to cast, and then get an extra cast you couldn't get otherwise. I was already cheesing games way back then.
Split second cancels.
Yeah.
Refunds your mana.
Oh, that's fun. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. And like I think they were more. They tried to be a little bit more historically accurate in the second one. Like some of the outfits and equipments and stuff were updated to look more like the historical counterparts, and like the greater beings were made more, like in some cases made more accurate as well. Like the Norman one was changed from a dragon to like an angel, which like sure, and I don't think there's much angel summoning went on in medieval Europe, but that makes more sense that that's who you're praying to summon.
Yeah.
And they updated like the graphics to look more historically accurate as well. Like the Norman seat of power is just like a medieval cathedral. Yeah. I still love the cartoonish style of the first one so much more, but the Freitans look cooler in the second one. Yeah, I'd agree with that. they really upgraded that, because the first one they were deliberately a bit goofy, the Frytans, right? They deliberately made them like a bit silly looking. Well, they're still monsters, but like, you know, a bit goofy. And there were a lot of jokes in it about them. Like the Karotan, which is this tall, lanky thing with like long whip arms. And the description was a wizard's quest for a larger carrot really worth the result? But yeah, in the second one they made them like proper like really like cool looking monsters. Some of them were obviously upgrades from like they were similar. They've got different names, but very similar to the Frytans from the first one, but with like an improved look that looked really cool. The Karshuf were like plant men with like 3 eyes on stalks, and they were so cool. But yeah, the cartoony style I think just works kind of better graphically. And the music from the first one is iconic. Every single track is embedded in my brain to this day. Me too, B-Rat. Like, I actually got the file out of the game and like just had it as an album I'd listen to sometimes. Because it's like MIDI music, you know, but it's just really well done, and every track is like distinct, and they're all solid. Yeah. I
mean, I've got so many albums of MIDI files from old computer games. I 100% get that one.
So what did you want to talk about, Loomis? Somewhere I've been very much dominating the conversation so far, because
I think it's fine.
Excuse me, because I've had a chance to talk about Seven Kingdoms.
Yeah, I mean, you've been talking with me about it, that's fine. You're allowed to interact with chat.
Thank you. I never like when streamers don't, you know. Like, I've watched streams where they just... I don't mean when there's like 1 million people in chat, because obviously then they can't, can they? I think I did once see a stream with 1 million people in chat, by the way. It was like some big event, you know, like game or whatever had come out, and they'd got, I guess, early release or something, I don't know. But you know when people... They've got, you know, like a moderate amount, but they just ignore the chat. I don't like that. Obviously, if you're doing a performance or something, then you can't, but like... I need me interactive streams. That's what I...
Yeah, obviously it depends a lot on context, but generally the interaction is one of the main draws of a stream.
Definitely a huge draw for me. Karshuf from planting those spitting Venus flytrap plants, but the wild ones that can spread on their own and don't attack your Karshuf units, Pepe laugh. They were a nightmare. You could research upgrades in Seven Kingdoms 2. Which you couldn't really... You could research things in the first one, but it was like new catapults, you know, that kind of... And then upgrading them, right? In Seven Kingdoms 2, you had like whole fields of research. You had whole fields of research, like, you know, making your soldiers better, more productive or whatever. And the Karshuf could research to upgrade their Venus flytraps. Aww. So what you do, see, is you get your spitting Venus flytrap plants, then you upgrade them to be invisible until they attack, and then you upgrade them to have the wild ability, so they just spread across the map. You essentially become an invasive plant. And they just spread over time until you can have like half the map covered in them. And anytime anybody else moves past, they just... It's one of my nightmares, but when you're controlling it, it's not so bad. Literally, I've had nightmares about that, but nonetheless, if you're doing it, it don't feel quite so nightmarish. Oh yeah, they look like trees. That was so funny. Yeah, they look like a tree on the map until you get close enough and they attack. And they appear. And they stay like appeared for so long and then hide themselves as a tree again. As you're just going like... As you turned half the map into a forest that kills anybody who comes near it. I found the unit pathing and stuff sometimes a bit more like janky on Seven Kingdoms 2. Like they'd improved it in some ways, but then other ways it'd like act Ned a bit more, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
This forest is surprisingly quiet. I wonder why. So yeah, what did you have to say about leveling up praying ability? Or perhaps it was a related thought that wasn't specifically that.
I mean, sort of along those lines. I was actually thinking about this a little bit earlier today. I've got a classics display going in the library.
Oh.
And one of the books I was putting out was the Iliad, which is what made me think of it.
Sure.
But yeah, I was thinking about how, I feel like sometimes, in the context of priests and such, we have a very different idea of them today to what they were back then. And at the time, I was kind of thinking of it in the topic of video games, that I think historic priests work a lot better in video games than the modern concept of priests.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's hard to make that. Sorry, just one moment.
Sure. I never really liked the was it the Espinez, who were like the skeleton men, the big skeleton creatures who had like the artillery. I would never I just never fussed about them.
I'm back.
Okay, cool. I was just filling the air talking about how I didn't like the skeleton men with the artillery. Would you think I would? Because that sounds cool. But I was just never, no fussed. Anyway, historical priests.
Yeah, so I think the historical concept of priest works a lot better with video games, but it's also harder to pitch as a character because it's not what you're used to.
Yeah.
It's not intuitive. It feels like you're throwing a very out there concept when it needs to be a concept that feels natural to the setting.
Yeah, I can see that.
But yeah, so like in the Iliad, for example, one of the generals, the kings, leaders of one of the armies, the Greek armies, there's this guy who's always referred to as the old priest.
Oh.
Because he knows all the divine secrets and that.
Sure, happens.
And like that's the thing, he's a priest because he knows a lot about the gods, but he doesn't like preach or run churches or convert or any of the things we'd associate with priests. He's literally just a guy who knows a lot about the gods. And his strength as a priest is that he knows all the various rituals that you can use and secret ways and things that you can use to call upon the gods. Like a lesser priest would know a few things that you can a few ways to call upon the gods. He knows lots of proper procedures that you can use to get the gods to actually answer your call.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the leveling up as a priest thing. He knows more about the ways of the gods in order to get their aid.
Yeah.
And like throughout the story, they'll often call upon him to perform what rituals they need or perform divinations and things. And I remember the first time I read it, I was thinking, this is really like priests in D&D, actually, with their spell slots, where these are rituals they know to call upon aid from the gods and have the gods answer.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Hi.
That's to my mind the leveling up as a priest is learning these secrets that you can then call upon.
Yeah, definitely.
And I had more thoughts in the context of like I think it works well in the idea of druids as well. And a lot of depictions of historical druids is like a lot of the times they lived in isolation. You had like the druidic circles. And like again, there was they weren't necessarily completely cut off from the rest of the world, but they also had they knew the way of the gods. They lived in isolation, performing the proper prayers and receiving the proper benefits, etc. There wasn't really an expectation that they were out there converting or anything.
No.
They had responsibilities in accordance to the divine needs of the world. They performed the rituals to appease the gods, and they did missions for the gods on the earth.
I mean, D&D, druids, as an aside, are basically shamans, aren't they?
Yeah.
Because a druid historically was just another kind of priest, really.
Yeah.
Just a specific kind of priest. Also, if I'm playing a druid, I want to have a sickle and a bunch of mistletoe. that should be your equipment. like D&D druid. Well, they don't use metal objects, do they, or whatever?
They're actually, at least back in 3.5, I don't know about 5e, they didn't use, they had a general restriction against like worked objects, so you couldn't use metal as a rule. But they did have exceptions for certain ritual objects, such as sickles.
Sweet.
And mistletoe was an important spell component. So.
Hey, there we go.
Yeah. But yeah, D&D druids actually kind of inhabit an odd position. They kind of function like clerics, but of nature rather than of a god. But then a cleric in D&D doesn't actually have to be of a god.
All right.
Like you can have a cleric of an element or something.
Oh.
Or even of a. In fact, there's even rules for being like a cleric of a cause.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So like if you're a druid of the fire elements, then like you pray to the fire, the realm of fire, and you channel power from the elemental realm of fire, and like powerful fire elementals are the ones who like direct your prayer equivalents. Things that need a mind. That can't just be handled by the plane. They go to powerful fire elementals rather than a god. You might have one fire elemental who's yours, or it might just go out to whoever's listening that day.
Whoever's on call.
Yeah. And yeah, you can be a cleric of a cause where you're channeling the faith of those who serve that cause, the followers, the devout. You can be the cleric of an army who channels the will of the army.
Oh, that's really fun actually. I shouldn't be surprised about it being 3.5 though, because that's the 50 odd core classes and 200 playable species.
I mean, yeah, but this was also like the default cleric. It's things listed in the fluff for the default cleric. Like your cleric could be one of these, and it doesn't really require special rules. Just talk to your GM about it.
Yeah, I get you.
But that puts druids in an odd position because, like, lore-wise, they're essentially clerics of nature. But then the cleric has rules for being clerics of nature.
Oh, yeah.
So you could kind of see the druid as being a cleric subclass, except it's very different to other cleric subclasses.
Thank you for reaching the plane of fire. Your call is important to us.
Yeah.
Is it druid and then you like multi-class as a cleric and break the game in that 3.5?
No multi-classing involved. Just play as a cleric or a druid.
Oh, right, so it's either. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, of the basic classes, those are by far the most powerful.
That's why I've seen the names together then. It's like either of those.
Yeah, Codzilla is the standing name. Cleric or Druidzilla. Basically because they're primary casters, and casters are very overpowered in 3.5, especially at the higher levels. But unlike other primary casters, clerics and druids both have good combat skills.
Yeah.
They can actually do... they're not as good at fighting as actual combat classes, but they're much better at straight-up fighting than other magic classes are. And clerics also can wear really good armor, so they've got very good defenses. Druids, not so much, but druids get animal companions, which is one of the most powerful abilities in the game for combat. So...
Yeah.
Whichever one you go with, they tend to be very strong.
Nice. I liked the old barbarian with a few monk levels build. Says beat right.
5e does have a fun, overpowered druid cleric combo.
Oh yeah.
So if you're a cleric of the life domain, so basically if you worship a god of healing, one of the special abilities you get early on is one that adds like a flat healing boost to any healing effect you provide.
Oh yeah.
So like all of your healing spells are like plus 5 hit points or whatever.
Yeah.
Instead of getting like plus D4 healing, you get D4 plus 5 healing, which is very strong.
Whoa. Excuse me. Sorry. Yeah, carry on. Ugh. I just like had a massive sneeze. That's what I was like. Ugh.
So, a popular druid spell, an early on druid spell for healing, is Goodberry.
Oh, is this one where you get some like magic snap?
Yeah, basically. Goodberry conjures a dozen berries, each of which heal a hit point.
Oh, nice.
So, like, one berry is not a lot of healing, but you get quite a few of them, and they last for 24 hours. So you can hand them out amongst your party in advance, and they can take them when they need them. And like, I mean, if you're being any kind of healing stops like bleeding effects. So if you're bleeding out, or if you're in negative health or whatever, you can instantly take one berry to stabilize and stop the bleeding and all that. So that's very useful.
Yeah.
And like, even though one berry is not a big heal, you get quite a few of them, so you can munch down on them out of combat to get yourself up to good health again.
Can you have a magical wheel of cheese and just play it as though you're in Skyrim?
There's probably GMs who would let you have good cheeses instead of good berries.
Can you imagine? Just summoning a wheel of cheese. I'm just imagining, like, you know, Baby Bells. They're like mini wheels of cheese that come in like a little bag, aren't they?
Yeah.
That's what I'm picturing. Just like chanting in some arcane tongue, you hold your hand out and just a bag of Baby Bells appears. Oh, that's totally the sort of thing we do in one of our games, isn't it? With like nudge, nudge, wink, wink references to real world things.
Yeah.
I saw that in Baldur's Gate 3, some of the feats are learning a few spells from other classes, and I wonder if that's 5th edition or something that Larian Studios added to discourage multi-classing as much. Like, one of the feats you can take at level 4, I don't know if you can take it at higher levels, it's like Mage, Initiate, Colon, and then whatever the caster type is, which I think is what Beato's referencing. But I don't know if that's... I don't know that either. I know that's the sort of thing you can do in Dungeon World. But I don't know, like, you'll know more about this than me, Loomis, about which edition of like D&D it's in.
Yeah, I think that there are a few things like that, because even with multi-classing, like, different magics, different types of magic don't normally stack. So, like, if you're a high-level wizard and you want a cleric spell, if you're a high-level wizard and you've got like all different feats and things that boost your wizard magic, and then you take a level in cleric, you're only going to be getting like bottom-level cleric spells, and none of your wizard abilities will apply to boosting them. So, multi-classing as a magic class tends to be discouraged. Whereas if you're using an ability that lets you treat one or two cleric spells as though they're wizard spells, then you can take a cleric spell of the level of your wizard, at like one of your high wizard levels, and still use your wizard abilities on it. So that would be the distinction there, why you'd want those instead of multi-classing.
Ah, okay. Interesting.
Yeah, to double back to the berries thing. So when you put these abilities together, so you've got this cleric ability that adds +10 to all of your healing spells. Or all of your healing effects, I should say. And then you've got this druid spell that summons 10 berries that heal 1 hit point each, except each of those berries is a healing effect, so that each of those berries gets the +10. So instead of 10 berries that heal 1 point of health each, you've got 10 berries that heal 11 points of health each.
Ah, there you go. That's quite different.
Yeah, you're now with each cast of this low-level spell, you're summoning a dozen healing potions. They just go through emergency first aid kits to 4 heals.
Nice. Oh, I know, I need 2 of these. Oh, that's yeah, okay, I can see that. I think that kind of stuff's fun to do. But I can never bring myself to like focus on it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, I mean the
a couple of fun wrinkles where you kind of go, nice, that was fun to do. Rather than being like, here's what my build's going to be. That's why I always think I'd probably not do so well at like D&D, because I was like, what is a lulzy thing to do?
Yeah, so it's a bit that you kind of have to commit to, but like at any level in the game, it's the most cost-effective healing that you can get.
Yeah.
There's no other combination that provides that much healing that cheaply.
Yeah, sure. In Kira Chat's Baldur's Gate 3. Oh, you got some soil for me that descended from above. Thank you. It's grease is the thing at the minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, just the spell that summons grease. And that's just become a thing. And, like, it's just very, very funny, right? People fall in all right while.
Yeah.
It's like here in a sketch. It's just... And, someone was saying, actually, you get into it, you're level 4 now, it's kind of outclassed, you want to replace it with something else. And she was like, no, that's not who we are. We use grease. I was like, that's the kind of roleplay that I can get behind.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, actually, if I need to... but it's so boring. I wonder if I need to go around and keep clearing out that extra layer. But it's just a bit boring, this all. Wait. Hold on a minute. Because this is going to come out one. But yeah, I was right first time. Role played a 60s greaser. Yeah, this is right. Hold on. Hold on. So that comes out to there, then that would be under there. Yeah, this is fine. I mean, or is it... It's probably better if I clear out this whole thing as well, but it's just really boring and I don't want to do it. No, I can still do it, actually. As long as I do it beyond the line of the blue. No, it's fine. It's fine. I'll figure it out later. That's it then. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, thinking of like actual historical druids, and also the Plane of Fire thing of like crowdsourcing your magic.
Yeah.
I've always kind of, I've read a few stories that focus on like druidic characters like that, and I've always really liked the idea of worshipping like a massive pantheon.
Yeah.
Well, like for every one of your spells or abilities, right, you're praying to a specific god that grants that one ability.
Oh yeah, that's fun.
Like all these different gods, and like each one has their own specialties, right? You gotta pray for the one that's most relevant.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe you have a couple of patron gods, but like you got to go to the one that does the thing.
Absolutely, gods with jobs. Historians at least refer to them.
Yeah.
And there's a theory, and I think it's true, that that's where saints come in the Catholic Church. Because although we like, it's certainly how they kind of portray themselves, that the Catholic Church being very like strict and dogmatic in its beliefs, they were actually pretty relaxed. Like, they so long as you like believed in Jesus, and like didn't go around being too overt in your heresy, they're quite willing to just like let it slide. Look at Santa Muerte, is it, in Mexico? That's clearly one of the Aztec death gods, just like rebranded as a Catholic saint.
Yeah.
Like they literally like, have a procession where they have like a human skull in a black robe. That's not in the Bible. But it does look very much like one of the Aztec. I say Aztec death gods. They're pretty much all there, right? So they were very strict in some areas, right, with the whole heresy thing. But we're also quite willing to just be like, yeah, that's totally us. Yeah, that was Jesus this whole time. Don't worry about it. And one of that is kind of adopting things in order to make them sort of inverted commas Christian. And part of that is gods with jobs, right? People are used to being like, oh, I need some help with blacksmithing. I'm going to pray to Thor. Or I've got, I'm in legal trouble. I'm going to pray to Tew, right? Tyr to be in that case, wouldn't it? Yeah. Depending whether you want to go
Anglo-Saxon or Scandinavian. So you kind of, how do you do that for, like, where there's just one God? There is the Christian God and that's it. And he's in charge of everything. And people are like, well, I don't know. I kind of want somebody who's, this is their field of expertise. And that's where the saints come in. You go, oh, yeah, you're still praying to the one God, but Saint Christopher's like the guy you want for long journeys. Or it's Saint so-and-so. And that there's a speculation amongst historians that's where the whole like cults of saints come in.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I can see how it fills a similar role.
Yeah. But that's obviously not what the Catholic Church would say.
Yeah. I guess part of the pitch I want to make, though, is like with the, say, the ancient Greek pantheon, there were quite a lot of gods, and you'd pray to a relevant one for the thing that you wanted. But, like, looking at the Druid stuff, there were often, like, thousands and thousands of gods. And, like, different ones had... And, like, these were just the tip of the iceberg. Like, these were the gods that they knew about.
Yeah.
And, like, some of them had major roles in stories, but some of them were, like, their name appeared once in a story somewhere, and that's all we know about them.
That's true.
It's like there was this whole realm of the gods that was absolutely stuffed with people, and we only learned about them when they interacted with the mortal world.
Yeah.
Like, I guess it kind of ties back in with the leveling up as knowledge of the gods thing. Like, as you get further into the Druidic mysteries, you learn the names of more gods that you can call upon.
Yeah, and
you learn better which god has what interests. Like, there might be dozens of gods that know a bit about smithing. Which one is best at the thing you're making?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and it can get very, very specific because there's that many of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It becomes like a constant kind of division and subdivision. Specialization. Division of labour. We have a version of St. Nicholas in Slovenia that somehow commands demons or something like that, originating from some type of pagan god having his fey beings or something. Yeah, I think I've heard of that kind of thing where essentially the emphasis is changed, right? Where it becomes because I've seen there's a similar one in. I think it's St. Nicholas again in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
Where he demon as a form of repentance or penance, I suppose, commands demons to do good deeds instead of evil ones. Yeah, that tracks.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think I've heard versions of that myself. St. Nicholas commanding a demon or demons that he's defeated, forcing them to do good deeds.
Yeah. Which is kind of like that would make like Sunday school a lot more interesting, by the way.
I think in some versions that's like what Krampus is, right?
Yes.
The Christmas demon.
I know, that sounds so alien. I love that. That's quite fascinating. Yeah. And it shows a slightly different conception of cosmological matters to what Christians would later have.
Yeah.
Also, we have St. Nicholas, Grandfather Winter, and Santa Claus somehow. All three associated with gift giving and celebration during December. We've got like Father Christmas, who's like the British one, right? Who was the traditional one, and even up into like into the 20th century, people wouldn't say Santa. They say Father Christmas. They've got Santa Claus, which is the American version of Father Christmas, derived from St. Nicholas, right? Sint Niklaas in Dutch becomes Santa Claus. In much in the same way that cookie became cookies, right? Yeah. You kind of see that Dutch immigrants into the US. And then there was also, in a lesser, until the pre-Reformation, we had St. Nicholas as well. So in our case, all three have merged into a single figure. But disappointingly, not like three heads or something.
Yeah.
Also, Father Christmas didn't become red because of Coca-Cola. Like, it was already being depicted as red. It's like he featured heavily in their advertising, but red or green were both used for Father Christmas characters. Saint Nicholas is the Christianized pagan one. Grandfather Winter is the non-Christianized pagan one, and Santa Claus is the Coca-Cola one. But yeah, it's only like the very like commercialized kind of one, isn't it? I always find it interesting if you buy like a Lindt chocolate Santa, because I used to do it a lot. Because that's not like a British Santa, because it's Swedish, right? It's not Swedish. Oh, hold on, Swiss. I've just actually like walled over a place I shouldn't have walled over. Good thing I got that pickaxe with the mending. Good thing nobody wrecked any of those. And like he's got like a long robe and like this like waist length beard. It's very different to like the usual like British depiction of Santa.
Yeah.
Looks much more like Father Christmas, I guess, than the Santa we're used to. Now, I do find the different depictions of essentially the same figure very interesting.
Yeah.
Let's go and fix my mistake. It reminds me of that post I saw online that was on about how there's two kinds of authors. And one of them was about, I can't remember the exact specific, but it's Tolkien agonising over what he can and can't include in his fictional world because they wouldn't actually have access to it.
Yeah.
And then the other one is like C.S. Lewis putting in whatever he fancied. And then the thing was like Tolkien brandishing a gun. Where did the otters get the marmalade? C.S. Lewis. From Father Christmas. It's yeah, I can just picture like that kind of thing, C.S. Lewis. Definitely, you can see why they fell out at times, can't you?
Yeah.
I also love that Tolkien had like this deep like thing with C.S. Lewis where you know they had a lot of discussions until C.S. Lewis became a Christian, and Tolkien was like overjoyed that his friend was going to be saved, and then absolutely furious when he became an Anglican. Like, no, that's the wrong kind. It's the wrong kind of Christian. Stop it.
Yeah, Tolkien and Lewis's entire friendship was based on screaming at each other. They didn't agree on a single thing.
Yeah. I also like C.S. Lewis's. It was really annoying to go for a walk with Ronald because he'd stop and talk to every tree we passed. Because if you don't know, Ronald is what Tolkien's like family and friends called him, which is his middle name, one of his middle names. Also, I think his uni friends used to call him Tollers, which is very public school boy.
Yeah.
Then I had GRRM, so George R.R. Martin, pointing a gun at Tolkien, asking what Aragorn's tax policy is. Supposedly, according to George R.R. Martin, that's why he wrote. He was inspired to write Game of Thrones, because he always wondered what Aragorn's tax policy was and was disappointed that Tolkien never went into those details.
Mm-hmm.
We were having a discussion about that kind of thing in. It was part of the Is Bilbo a Landlord debacle in the Kira Chats Discord, and one of them was because obviously Tolkien doesn't talk about these kind of things. Like Bilbo nebulously inherited money off his dad, right? And there's a lot of very like how the Shire actually runs is often very nebulous and vague because Tolkien wasn't interested in it, right? I've seen somebody characterized him as being, I don't know, it was like, I can't remember what they called him. Was it economically illiterate and politically apathetic? Which I don't think he quite was. I just think it's not what he wanted to write about. And there's quite a few areas of that where people asked him specific questions, and he basically went, I don't want to, that doesn't interest me to write about.
Yeah.
So he didn't do it. And I think the kind of the taxation stuff side of it is definitely it. And yes, I know I'm, by the way, walling up what it shouldn't be. I need to do that to keep this line running, and then I'm going to go and clear it back. I'm not making a mistake this time. I'm doing it intentionally. But yeah, so that's part of the inspiration for George R. R. Martin to do Game of Thrones, because he wanted the details of taxation and such, and incest, I guess. There's not really a lot of that in Tolkien.
What's Aragorn's stance on incest?
I mean, him and Arwen are distantly related, so there is that.
Yeah.
Because, Aragorn is descended from Elros, who is Elrond's brother, so... They are distantly related, but that is very distant, isn't it? It's so... Aragorn's ancestor 3,000 years ago was his wife's uncle. I'm not sure what relationship that makes them. At least inbred royals, yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, he's going to be like her 30th cousin, isn't he?
Ah, yeah, as well, yeah. Even with the longer lifespans of the Dinner dying, you're still talking about that kind of thing, aren't you?
Yeah.
Minas Tirith would not work logistically with the tech they had at hand. Probably not, no. I do like, and I've talked about this before, 'cause it's a detail that they don't have at all in the films, and I get it, but I really like is that description you get. I think it's just after Gandalf arrives with Pippin at Minas Tirith, and you get that description about how all the countryside around it is surrounded by farms. And they're all being evacuated, and all the food and animals and everything being brought into the city in preparation for the siege. And I like it because, first of all, it's just it's a realistic element, right? That's what you do. But also it shows Denethor trying to prepare for the upcoming war, the upcoming battle.
Yeah.
In a way that obviously in the film he just he doesn't bother. Whereas in the book, until he finally goes funny. After he tries, after he thinks Faramir's dying, and he grapples mentally with Sauron, it finally kind of breaks him. He's at least trying to keep everything running.
Yeah.
It's also when I learned the word Ost, because Tolkien describes all the places out in the Pelennor, and he gives the spiel and says something like something in beer Ostengane. What does that even mean? I had to look it up. It's a place where you process oats. If you're interested, for making brewing type purposes, that kind of thing is an Ost. And similar grains as well. Obviously, a garner is where you store food, and a beer is where you keep animals in that context. Not to be confused with a beer with the thing that you carry people on, like when they're dead, nor to be confused with the thing that you drink. It's a slightly different word. And I do think, by the way, and you can have your thoughts on this, Lewis, if you want, that I think sometimes it's okay for an author to not mention the details like that when it's not the thrust of the story. Because I think, obviously you want it all to make sense, at least nominally, within the logic of the world. But I do think sometimes, particularly nowadays, and it goes back to that thing we've talked about so often before, the wikiization of media, that people want every, basically they almost want a story to be a list of facts that you can learn and kind of pat yourself on the back for knowing, I think, at times. And I know that's not everybody, but there are definitely people like that, aren't there? Sorry.
Feeling a little pointed here, but I'm definitely somebody who likes a lot of lore and facts, but at the same time, like Aragorn doesn't actually take over until the final chapters of the book. Like, his taxation stance has zero impact on the War of the Ring. He is not taxing anybody during that time.
True.
If it was a book about him ruling over Gondor, that information might be relevant. I might want to hear a few things about that.
Yeah.
But that's not what the book is about.
Yeah. And people kind of want the details, even though that's not what's going on, right? The English language. Yeah, we just got loads of words that sound exactly the same. Usually they've all come from different sources as well, right? This one's from Old English, this one's from Old Norse, this one's from Old Norman. They all sound the same. They all have completely different etymologies. Although I also like it where two words have got essentially the same etymology, but they've ended up with like slightly different forms, meaning slightly different things. That one's always fun. True, they should be asking what Denethor's tax policy is. That's true.
Yeah, now we're talking. Again, the taxes are not going to influence the story within the relevant time span.
Yeah. And it's something I think I've most encountered from... I've encountered it on two levels. Being involved in two things. Like, obviously you get like the Tolkien fandom, if you like, who do get kind of caught up on that stuff, which I always think is a bit of a mistake, because it's the stuff Tolkien was interested in least, and therefore the stuff he added like the least details to. It's meant to be what he called a romance, in the older meaning of the word. Not in like a romantic story like we think today, but like a heroic tale, right? A sort of semi-mythic heroic tale is what stuff like Lord of the Rings is meant to be. So obviously in that, you know, we don't normally hear about like King Arthur's taxation policies or whatever. So Tolkien's not sort of interested in that detail. But also, of course, 40k fandom, where people just love to get obsessed on like the technicalities of that. But what about the casings on bolters? Who cares? Why? Why is that important? Because yes, bolters are technically fire caseless ammunition.
Yeah, I was about to say, do bolters even have casings?
No, they fire caseless ammunition. However, that doesn't stop people doing models from having Space Marines with like casings all around the feet.
Oh. Probably like 15 different versions of bolter ammunition anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
What Forge World were they made on?
Yeah. That's the thing.
They cobbled? Do these Space Marines have access to a Forge World? Or are they like cobbling these together in the basement of one of their battle barges?
Yeah, and that's the thing, isn't it? Or because it's relatively simple. Are they making them on a hive world? Because a lot of Imperial's material, like all the normal stuff, is manufactured on hive worlds, right? Like, you know, like las rifles and perhaps even bolters, I'm not sure. But a lot of the basic stuff is churned out because that's what they use. One of the things they use the population of hive worlds for. So is your bolter ammunition made there? Also, bolters absolutely have an ejection port on the side. So what's that for if they're not? If they're firing caseless ammunition.
So I think it's pretty clear at this point that bolters are designed to fire cased or caseless ammunition, and and while the official standard for bolter ammo is caseless, there are places that don't have caseless manufacturing capacity and use cased versions. It seems quite simple to me.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't see what the controversy is.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You can easily just kind of go, yeah, that makes sense. You might some of the sort of thing that occurs to you, and you're just like, sure.
Like, they have coal-fired tanks and places that don't have other forms of fuel.
Yeah. And that's kind of the point of the setting, isn't it? That it's a mess.
Yeah.
That it's an absolute mess. Like, everything's chaotic and with a lowercase c, I mean. Lots of places are chaotic with an uppercase c. Like, it's supposed to be like a mess and all kinds of nonsense.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be like, well, but this story says this, therefore it must be... No. Stop that. 40k in fantasy would also be logistical nightmares to excuse. Yeah. I saw some people on Twitter earlier struggling to reckon with the fact that Imperial Navy ships manually reload their macro cannons. That if you know the Imperial Navy, 40k, a lot of the ships carry what are known as macro cannons that are like gigantic artillery pieces. And by gigantic, I mean absolutely massive. Like the shells are like, I don't know, 100 meters long or whatever absolute nonsense it is. You know, it could be like 10 meters long or something. But gigantic artillery pieces mounted on the side of a warship that's several kilometers long. And they're not like loaded by machinery. They have whole crews of what are functionally slaves. I think they're officially serfs, with the ship being what they're bound to, as it were. There's like whole teams of them, just like hauling on winches and like treadmill cranes to load the giant shells. I mean, like thousands, or even tens of thousands or whatever, of people working on the gun batteries of Imperial warships. Because human life is cheaper than building machines to do it. Like they have the technology. They could build machinery to load the shells for them. But that would use resources that are more scarce than people, which they have trillions of. Quadrillions, probably. You just send your fleet by a hive world, forcibly conscript like 50,000 people, and off you go. And like you could do that from one hive city, and people, like the population at large wouldn't notice.
Yeah. Heck, there's a good chance that the conditions in the hive world are so awful that people will volunteer for the duty.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you know what? Actually, we'll give it a go. Like, we'll go and live on a warship. But do you know, by the way, that the crews actually live just below the gun decks? Like, it's pretty much just like a little area behind the guns is where they actually spend the whole life.
That does not surprise me.
Yeah, and people couldn't get their heads around it online. They were like, but it don't make sense. Like, what? Why wouldn't you use like an auto-loader device? Like, because that's the way that it's kind of set up, isn't it? That human life is worth so little to them that they'll do it that way.
Yeah.
That human life is essentially very cheap. That's what they do. And people are trying to like come up with reasons why they might do it and why that's a good idea. I'm like, they're missing the mark by so many miles. They're like, well, sorry, go on.
Good idea was never on the table.
No, absolutely. They're like, well, NATO tanks don't use auto-loaders because there's lots of disadvantages to an auto-loader, You've got to, store your ammunition in a different way, and that's, by the way, a bit of a NATO obsession because Soviet tanks all carry auto-loaders. So there's this obsession of proving that that's a bad idea. Like even nowadays in the war in Ukraine, there's a lot of people, like every time a Russian tank gets blown up, people are like, see, it was the auto-loader the whole time. And you might say, but don't Ukrainian tanks have auto-loaders as well? No, never mind about that. It's, it's like a weird, like pro-NATO obsession.
Yeah.
About why auto-loaders are bad. But anyway, so they're trying to say, you got more choice over your, selecting your ammunition. Not true, by the way. You just have like a button that you press on an auto-loader and it loads the ammunition type you want. Like they built that in like the 60s or whatever. It's a technology that actually works. They just select it, and it does do it. And maybe it's because of like the space involved. It's like, no, we're not talking about tank guns though, loading like a 100 mil shell. We're talking about shells that are meters across. This isn't like maybe they didn't have. I've done that again. I can't believe that. Maybe they didn't have enough space. So this is crews of people in treadmill cranes loading car-sized shells or whatever. There's not about like fitting them in a tank. As you say, good idea was never on the table. What was that meme about warp jumps for 40k? 90% of the crew is dead. Most of the rest is in shock from the nightmares they'd just seen. They arrive 2 systems off course, several weeks too late, and the captain opens up a bottle of bubbly to toast a successful jump. I do like stuff like that, where it's just like, it's absolutely awful. It's like, with 40k standards, this is still a good thing. That reminds me of that quote from Ferdinand Foch. It was a French general who ended up as Supreme Commander of Allied Forces in the First World War. And it's that thing where he like messaged his HQ. You've been tending the fields, Loomis. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very- Yeah, I'm on my way to buy some glass now. Because
Brilliant, thank you.
you're working on this big community project, least I can do is help out.
I appreciate that, thank you. But yeah, I used to use it when we used to play League. I used to use that quote quite a bit, didn't I? Whereas like whereas it the left flank is falling back, the center is like devastated or whatever. Right flank, I don't know, pinned down. Situation excellent. I'm attacking.
Yeah.
What? Like the full quote is brilliant if you look it up because he just describes this like awful situation, like where everything's gone completely wrong. Situation excellent. I'm attacking. It is great. It was also Ferdinand Foch who, when they signed the Treaty of Versailles, said that it's not a peace treaty, it's an armistice for 20 years. And of course 20 years later, more or less, that's when the Second World War broke out.
Yeah.
Although apparently Hitler didn't actually think that the UK and France would go to war over Poland. And apparently turned pale and started shaking when the UK and France declared war on him. He was like, oh no, I've made a terrible mistake.
Yeah.
I suppose it was the first time really he'd had to like reckon with the idea that he could be wrong. Because he'd like, oh yeah, this is totally what's going to happen next. It wasn't. He's like, wait a minute. And because unfortunately it did go well for him initially, even if it ultimately went wrong. Sorry, what were you going to say?
Yeah. I think to his mind, he'd given it this attacking other people a few test tries and was pretty sure he could keep on attacking smaller nations indefinitely until he was strong enough to fight the big ones.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, even like the senior commanders in the Wehrmacht said, oh, we'll be ready to go to war in 1947. Like, they didn't want to go to, I think it was the Kriegsmarine said 1947, and like the Wehrmacht were like 1943 or something. They said they'd be ready by. So 1939, 1940 is definitely not when they wanted to be going to war.
Yeah. That's why you need to take action against aggressive militaries immediately and not say let them conquer a peninsula and then sit on your hands for 8 years and hope that they don't figure out that well, if you didn't defend that place, are you going to defend the next one?
That's always the problem, isn't it? If you get away with it a bit, people are going to try getting away with more of it, aren't they?
Yeah.
Because like, why wouldn't you in that regard?
But I suppose there's also kind of a lesson not learned in that, like World War One, they were surprised when the Oaths of Alliance were kept.
Yeah.
World War Two, surprised when the Oaths of Alliance were kept by the same people who kept them last time.
Yeah. I didn't know they were commanded by my IT manager. Yeah, and it's interesting because Hitler made a series of mistakes because of his ideology. Right, like he'd convinced himself that certain things were inevitably the case, and then when that didn't happen, he was caught completely thrown. Like, how can this be? This is not how this works in my ideas. Like the US being like able to actually fight him, when he was convinced that because so many different nationalities and ethnicities had like gone into the US, that would therefore make them weak because they weren't like racially pure. Turns out, of course, that's like utter nonsense. So it caused problems for him, didn't it?
Yeah.
Same with the Soviet Union as well, of course. Where he'd got the idea that because there were so many different ethnicities in the Soviet Union and they were all, to his mind, inferior, that they'd be no good either. Oh.
How can you unite such different people into one cause?
Yeah. It won't work. It don't make sense. He said, why is there a librarian all the way out here? That doesn't make... Go back to your library instead of out in the fields. What's wrong with you? Not you. The village.
Okay, I just wanted to play a game with you. And have a bit of a nice time, but fine, I'll go back to work.
Wow, essentializing villagers. Shaking my head. Look, I just want them to work for me for no pay. That's all. That makes me a monster. I don't know what the woke mob have gone too far. And of course, the success actually of the Wehrmacht in France actually convinced Hitler that he was a super genius. He's like, wow, the plans worked exactly as intended. Bearing in mind they were plans he himself opposed half the time. That means I'm a genius and can make no mistakes. And so, of course, all the plans were based on the idea that he was always right. And therefore, if he said a thing, it must be true. And of course, as much as the commanders of the Wehrmacht like to pretend afterwards that it was Hitler, it made us do it. They would totally went along with it whenever they were winning. Yeah. Got an early meeting tomorrow, so I'm going to go sleep now. Thank you for the stream, Nair and Loomis. Well, thank you, B-Rat. Thank you for keeping me company. And thank you for hanging out in chat. Expect 7k spammed sometime this week. I look forward to it. Finally, another Seven Kingdoms play.
Have a good night, B-Rat.
Night, B-Rat.
Yeah. The Dunning-Kruger effect in warfare.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. The less you know, the more you think you know. It's a good way of looking at it, I think, the Dunning-Kruger effect.
Yeah.
Like the opposite of Socrates is, I know only that I know nothing. But because if you know that you know...
Well, it's kind
Sorry.
Say the principle of the two ideas is the same.
Yeah, true.
Like, the Dunning-Kruger effect is that you don't know enough about a topic to know that you don't know about the topic. Whereas Socrates has learned enough to know that he doesn't know everything.
That's true. I mean, mostly he was just doing that to be annoying, right?
Oh,
I don't know anything about this. Asks the obvious question. And, the Socratic method.
Yeah.
Like the little kids do that, don't they? Like, but why? That's kind of what Socrates did. I know it's supposed to be learned, but he was mostly just being annoying.
That can be a valuable technique to, like, go in and question the basics.
I mean, yeah, that's his whole idea, isn't it? Is that you build things on a foundation of that you're not actually sure about or whatever.
Yeah.
Because you don't question it because you just take it for granted. It is right in that regard. But can you imagine being in ancient Greece and this dude just comes up to you, asks you like a really obvious question, and you answer him, and then he keeps badgering you with further questions until you have to admit you don't know, and then he's all like smug about it.
Yeah.
Nice.
But like I sympathize with him because I see a lot of things on the internet about like scientists did such and such a study, and people are like, that's so obvious. I could have told them that myself and saved them 100,000 on a research grant. But like they ignore the fact that a lot of the time scientists will test these really obvious things and find out that they're actually wrong.
Yeah.
Common wisdom does not apply there.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you have to check these things out. You have to.
Yeah, just because something is obviously true does not mean that it's correct.
Yeah, absolutely. We've definitely talked about similar things before, haven't we? Obvious but wrong and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And of course the logical but wrong as well. Talked about that like a lot of sort of, I don't know, because it's not just pre-modern, but that's the kind of stuff we think about, like ancient or say medieval or even early modern like worldviews are often very logical, make sense with the information they have, but are still just like wrong.
Yeah.
Like insofar as they know they're right, but actually they're not. I wonder why villagers come into the factory at night. Do you think they just come in indoors even though there's nowhere to live here?
I don't know. I haven't really observed it.
Yeah, there's like 2 or 3 villagers who like come in here at night. Just kipping on the floor of the warehouse. There's 2 farms in here, excellent. I don't need a beer. Beer? No. But yeah, it's absolutely worth checking out these things. And Socrates, as I say, Socrates is right in the sense that we so often build things on a foundation of we don't actually know.
Yeah.
We take it for granted that X is the case. That doesn't mean it is. Ah, 1 beetroot shy. 14. You need 15 to be able to sell them.
You also do get a lot of cases where like the chain of logic is perfectly sound. It's just based on a faulty premise. You got to sort of tug on that thread until you get the premise out of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. Ooh. It is certainly worth exploring. There's something I was going to say as well that was related to that, but I can't think what it is. No, I can't think. I can't remember. Never mind. I had some thought while we were talking about like the Dunning-Kruger effect, the Nazis. Here's another thought. It wasn't the one I was going for, but we'll talk about it. I think appeasement gets a bad rap.
Yeah.
In that Britain and France knew they couldn't have fought Germany in 1936.
Okay, yeah, I mean,
In 1938.
in that specific example rather than in general.
Yeah, in that example, I think people are always like, oh, they were cowards, or they either think they're cowards who like daren't go to war, or they think they're right daft. Like, obviously, Hitler won't keep his word. Yeah, they knew that as well. Well, I mean, you got to ask the question of this regard. It's like, if Neville Chamberlain knew, or believed that Hitler would keep his word, and I believe peace in our time, as he said publicly, waving a bit of paper, that actually apparently was just a random bit of paper. Why did he then immediately introduce conscription in the UK? Like the first time that conscription had ever been introduced in the UK in peacetime. And every child in the country was issued with a gas mask. And evacuation plans were drawn up for all major cities to evacuate kids into the countryside. And production of tanks and military equipment was ramped up, including businesses being, not like government takeovers, but they're like production and everything being now like put under government authorization. And like the similar things happened in France. It's like if they thought it was peace in our time, they genuinely believed it because they were gullible. Why did they do all that?
Yeah.
Like they're not the actions of people who think they've secured a long-term peace, are they? I do feel sorry for Czechoslovakia. Obviously, having a chunk and then a chunk of their country annexed and then later the rest.
Yeah.
Do you know that the Czechoslovakian president, prime minister, president, whoever, wasn't even actually allowed into those meetings?
Yeah.
Like it was the UK, France, Germany, and Italy who were in for those discussions, and he was made to wait outside. Like he was like a really old dude as well, and they just like left him waiting outside.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, that's rough. And they like could have at least had him in the room, couldn't they?
Yeah.
Come on now, that's just cruel.
Well, then I guess the mere act of being in the room gives him a position of power.
Yeah.
Like he was there for the negotiations in that case.
Yeah, and they don't want him to actually go, no, please don't annex our country. You've got to stop him annexing my country. Because you actually want to be able to say, yeah, it's fine, don't worry about it. we need to get ready for war right now.
Yeah. And it's like the opposite of Japan being in the peace talks at the end of World War One.
Yeah.
Like they didn't really have a lot of involvement or input or anything like that, but they were there for these very important talks, and that has a power in of itself.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. I was reading the other day that I can't remember. It's like, you know, the Japanese kind of government things. It's like Plan whatever it was called. Was they tried to recruit Jewish people to go and live in Japanese territory because they'd heard like anti-Semitic ideas about how Jews, you know, were supposedly like controlling the banks, and thought that if they lived in Japan, they'd help out the Japanese. Which is a hell of an angle of anti-Semitism, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, wow, that's really good. That's really good. We should get them on our side, rather than we should hate them for it. They're like, what if they worked for us?
Yeah.
I did see someone say though about how it shows how something like the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, which is, you know, the book that kind of really formulated those ideas, and even by the way was known to be a fake from the beginning. Like, there are places where it's still published quite widely now, but like even at the time, people were like, this is a fake. And it's supposedly the minutes of a meeting by these like secret Jewish organization that says they're gonna like, here's how we'll control the earth or whatever. And like at the time, people were like, this is an obvious forgery. Like, who would even do this? But of course, outside of a cultural context of anti-Semitism, like the Japanese didn't like get the message, right? They didn't see this as, oh wow, this is horrendous. They were like, okay, cool, yeah, these are pretty effective guys, I guess. Yeah, we clearly know what they're doing. Like this.
Yeah, we should get them on our side.
Yeah, and I find that like really fascinating how you, like, even hate like that has to be in a context for it to, inverted commas, make sense, because it doesn't make sense for them. That's fascinating.
The idea is, I think, is kind of similar. The idea has some similarities, I think, to the fact that part of the way the Japanese felt they were being provoked is that they wanted to build the Japanese empire, and in their eyes, they were only doing what all the other major nations in the world were doing.
Hmm.
Like, they were getting sanctions put against them for stuff that America and the UK and everywhere were doing openly.
Yeah. They weren't the right sort. Is basically the thing,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Like, from their eyes, what they'd seen by watching the rest of the world was that this was that building your empire was a normal and healthy thing that a nation above a certain power did.
Yeah.
And that by trying to prevent the growth of the Japanese empire, other nations were interfering with Japan's natural and healthy growth.
Yeah.
Like that in itself was a major attack on them.
Yeah. They didn't quite know the rules as such, did they?
Yeah.
The rules of the game.
Well, I mean, the only relevant rule was it's okay when we do it.
Well, yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah. There's also the rule is you can't openly be too inverted commas evil, can you? Like, you've got to pretend you're doing it for the other people's good, even though that's like an obvious lie. You can't just be like rounding people up and killing them. You can't do that. And they're like, why? It's the sort of stuff you do. It's like, yeah, no, hold on. If you do it for their own good, you've got to take like that.
Yeah.
And that, because it's part of the fiction, isn't it? You have to pretend you're doing it for the colonized people's good. You can't be openly brutal.
Yeah.
You do it, but you've got to pretend you were provoked or it was a necessary step. And all of that's the nonsense that goes into the kind of the propagandizing of imperialism. I did read the interesting. Sorry, go on. No, stop it! Get back! Not you. This villager's trying to come onto the transit tube, and we can't allow that.
I just remember playing as Japan for the first time in one of the Hearts of Iron games, like the World War II simulators, and starting up their version of the campaign, thinking like, all I've got to do to win is not declare war on the United States. Like, as long as I do that, it's easy street.
Yeah.
But But wow, is it not easy to not declare war on the United States? Like, they really push for that. The United States is on you constantly. You can do nothing without the United States shoving you down and saying, "What are you going to do about it then?"
Unless you read it, I did once hear it described as the US joined the war when Japan interfered with their war profiteering.
Yeah.
Like, well, you know. But yeah, I was actually reading the other day, thinking of the Japanese war effort, about Puyi. I'm probably mispronouncing that. The last emperor of China, who ended up as a Japanese puppet in what's it? Manchukuo? I don't know how you pronounce that properly. When the Japanese created like a puppet state in Manchuria, he was made emperor of it, and he spent a lot of time after the war pretending that he didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
What? You know, because that started in like the 30s, didn't it? Like, we forget that the Japanese like started invading like Korea and China in the 20s. They didn't just start in like, you know, Pearl Harbor or something. And you know, after the war, it's like, I didn't know what they were doing, and anything I did know about, they made me. I was a complete innocent. He obviously was lying through his teeth. But an interesting character, Puyi, because he was an absolute awful kid. He made emperor at 3 by the Dowager Empress. Because it seems in China at that time, they were like a gang of like emperors' wives who were just like doing things behind the scenes. And one of them, Chi, I don't know how to pronounce it, who was like an old one at the time, when he was 3, made him emperor. And so, of course, that meant he was the son of heaven, and you can't tell the son of heaven what to do. So he simultaneously had, like, could do no wrong, but also had, like, no real childhood. Because obviously he had to be emperor. So he, like, the only thing they ever taught him was, like, Confucius. And he had to constantly do rituals all the time. So I guess he was, like, bored and fed up, and entertained himself by having the eunuchs whipped. That was, like, his favourite activity. That's just what he did every day. It was just, like, have the eunuchs whipped and or beaten in front of him for his amusement. And, like, you know, his wet nurse was the only person who could ever sort of tell him what to do. Because she was the only, like, mother figure he had. Because he weren't allowed to see his, like, real family.
Yeah.
Because he's the son of heaven, right? He didn't mess around with them. And, like, she had to, like, stop him, for example, when a eunuch had put on a particularly good puppet show. Puyi wanted to reward him by having him, like, having a cake made for him with pieces of iron in it. So he could see what he looked like when he ate it. Just like bizarre, like pointless cruelty.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what he did until he got a... Because he were only a kid when China ceased to be an empire and it became a republic. But like nobody told him. Because part of the deal to become a republic was to keep him on as emperor, but like just living in the Forbidden City with no power, except over his eunuchs and such. So he was like a grown man before he realised he'd not been emperor for like 20 years. Yeah. And then he got overthrown. And the Japanese took him in. And made him like puppet emperor of Manchukuo. Then he ended up getting captured by the Soviets. Who held him in, he was in like a gulag in Siberia or whatever, but they allowed him to keep his servants because he couldn't do anything for himself because no one had ever really taught him to do anything for himself. And as part of a deal, he got given back to China after the communists took over. Ow. That was a long fall. And he spent 9 years in a re-education camp. And came out a committed communist. As he said, the Puyi of yesterday is the enemy of the Puyi of today. Quite a nice way of putting it. And he worked as initially a street sweeper, but he got lost all the time. And then as a gardener. Apparently he said he was happier as a gardener than he'd ever been in his entire life. And although he was apparently his colleagues used to get really mad with him because he was incredibly clumsy. And his wife threatened to leave him at one point because of how clumsy he was. And some have suggested that probably what was happening was the same process as everything else in his life. He was fundamentally cowardly. As bullies are, aren't they? Like, if he could exert power over somebody, he'd do it with a reckless abandon and a glee. But the minute somebody had power over him, he'd just do whatever they wanted, like the Japanese or the Soviets or the. And then in the end, the Chinese communists had power over him. So of course he went along with whatever they said because he was fundamentally a coward. That, and it fell down a huge hole. But I kind of like the idea of the reformed Puyi.
Yeah.
It's been like, oh yeah, it's way better being a gardener than being an emperor. This is cool. Fascinating to read about. Also, he had a Scottish English tutor for a while, who was the first person he ever like properly listened to. Because obviously his wet nurse could tell him so much, a certain amount. But she would she could only do so much, I guess. Whereas the English tutor would basically be like, you've got to stop beating your eunuchs, mate. Like, just stop it. And I, for some reason, Puyi kind of like held him in a certain awe. I guess perhaps because he was like very different to anybody he'd ever known.
Yeah.
This white fella with piercing blue eyes and probably a Scottish accent and whatever.
Yeah.
And like he wanted to give up being emperor and go and like live in the UK, and they wouldn't let him. But fascinating.
I guess like most of the people he'd know would be in the Forbidden Palace, living their lives the whole time. Like, how many people did he know who were heavily associated with the outside world?
Absolutely. Like those eunuchs and stuff would have lived pretty much their whole lives there, right?
Yeah.
They'd have been turned into eunuchs as kids or teenagers or something.
Yeah.
And then that'd have been their life thereafter. And some of them would have been like old men who'd been living there since they were kids.
This guy has worldly wisdom.
Yeah.
He knows things of the outside world that like the Emperor can't contradict.
Yeah, that's true. It's a good point. Like he brought him a push bike, which because he'd never seen before. Like got him to ride around, and I think at one point he ended up being moved from the Forbidden Palace to like a different palace, and that was the first time he'd seen ordinary Chinese people like on the streets and whatever.
Yeah.
Like couldn't believe that. Is this how people live? Like is this what life is? Because he had no other frame of reference. Like because he was 3, so he knew like literally nothing about the outside world. And I just wonder, how do you even like conceptualize the world if you've never seen it?
Yeah.
Because of course he's used to absolutely everybody literally kowtowing in his presence. I remember seeing a clip from there's a film about it in there, and I don't know anything about the film. It's probably whether it's propaganda or what. But it's him as like a little kid, just like runs into, like as a toddler, runs into a room, and everybody immediately bows down with their foreheads pressed to the floor. And he like runs out, and they all stand up, and he runs back in, and they all bow down again, and so on. Like he does it a few times.
Yeah.
Which, of course, is spoofed in The Simpsons when Homer becomes the chosen one of the stonecutters. And you see him running in that like elaborate robe, and all the stonecutters bow to him, and he's going hee 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 hee. That's the it's a scene from that film. It's spoofed.
Yeah.
But Homer, you would imagine to know better than a toddler, but I guess not.
Yeah.
But yeah, like how do you even conceive of the world? So do you think everybody lives like you? Because obviously everybody doesn't, because they all bow down to you. Do you think everybody in the world is like your servant? Because everybody you know is. Fascinating to me, like how you would even like conceptualize the world.
Yeah. Like are the rest of them real people? You gotta. This is the sort of scenario where you start imagining pea zombies, right? Like, are the rest of them people? Or is it just you and they're objects that move around you?
Yeah, because obviously you seem to have like no empathy for anyone around him. Because he did he not conceive them as people? That's a great point. Yeah.
Or if they are people, are they? He's certainly not being told that they're just like him.
No, no, definitely not.
Like, does he perceive them as being lessers on that level? That they don't have his level of emotions and feelings?
If they certainly wouldn't be showing them, essentially, would they? They just sort of not allowed to.
Yeah, is he going to see himself as like the only real human, and the others not just like lower on a class level, but like lower on every level? Like they're not people.
Yeah. And I mean, he documented a lot of his thoughts because that's part of his re-education. Was they took him round various places, like where because he'd worked with the Japanese, much as he later claimed they'd forced him to. He'd sort of actively worked with the Japanese because they didn't just make him back into an emperor, they made him into a god emperor, more than just the son of heaven. All right, because the Japanese emperor, of course, was more than just the son of heaven, right? You're more than just like the Chinese thing of you've got the mandate of heaven, which can be taken away. What's up?
I accidentally hit a villager. I'm in trouble.
Which village?
Over at East Market. I'm going to throw some taters at him and see if he'll take them as an apology.
I mean, if somebody hit me, I'd take a sack of taters as an apology.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he was made to he was taken to places where met people who'd been oppressed by the Japanese or by him, and talked to him and stuff. And apparently he kept crying all the time. So this is what it really like. Now again, of course, he had every reason to, because that's what they wanted him to do, didn't they? And you're in their power.
Yeah.
But at the same time, did he finally realise that they're real people too, with the same depth of feeling and same everything as him? I better stop here. I can't carry on. I can't risk this pickaxe breaking.
Okay. I went to turn myself in, and the iron golems don't seem to be interested.
Oh, good. Looks like you've got away with it. I wouldn't try and buy anything off him for a while, though. They're probably not going to give you a good deal after that incident.
We'll see what the prices are in the morning.
Don't hit him again.
I'm going to keep hitting him until the prices go down.
Oh, that's not a piece of track. That was just a hole. Oh. He died in 1959, by the way, Puyi. I think pneumonia or something. But in a way, I think for him it was a good thing he didn't live into the 60s when the Cultural Revolution happened.
Yeah.
Because if they were digging up old emperors to mess up their remains, I don't know what they would have done to a living one.
Yeah.
I don't think that would have been a fun time for old Puyi. Because they did dig up all the tombs, and they burned the bodies of the old emperors and stuff.
Yeah.
It's a wild time in China, that. Unless, of course, it's all imperialist propaganda. I know Mao actually talked about what they'd done. But still, maybe it's imperialist propaganda. You don't know. Did Mao tell you himself? Then how do you know it's true?
Okay. Baby. After I gave that villager all those taters, now we've got a baby.
Oh, there you go. How nice.
Now when that baby asks about its parentage, I can explain that it all happened when I punched one of his parents.
Well, you see, punched you. That's so much. 33? It's a ridiculous amount of money. I'm not spending that. It's outrageous. 33. I'm not spending that. The cheap way of doing it.
anything above 30 is diminishing returns anyway.
So yes, I was trying to repair the pickaxe, right? And I went to use the anvil to repair it with an unenchanted pickaxe, and they wanted 33 for it. Yeah, ridiculous.
I've got 33 that I'm not using.
I mean, I'm 38, like, and you know, experience levels my sen, but still, 33. It's outrageous. I have to think on. I mean, a new pickaxe just for the purpose of repairing that other one, and they want 33. Outrageous. Must think how born yesterday. I mean, I don't know who they are in this scenario. It's an anvil. I'm working it myself. If that's just the power it takes because it's got so many spells on it. But still, the principle of the thing.
Okay, the villager hasn't raised the price, by the way. I think I'm good.
Oh, nice. They must have forgiven you.
Yeah, no grudges were held.
Oh, just clicked on that.
Maybe they realised it was an accident.
Must be. Like, alright, we'll forgive you this time. Oh, my imperialist propaganda joke, by the way, was obviously we've been lied to a tremendous amount about like the Soviets or the Chinese or whatever. But some people take that as like, therefore we can know nothing about them.
Yeah.
Because anything could be imperialist propaganda, right? So therefore we can know nothing. And that's not necessarily the case, and is also, as I've heard it described before, a thought-terminating cliche.
Yeah.
That you just go, well, okay, we can't know anything then. Like that is... we can still know some things. Especially if it's stuff that, like, Chairman Mao talked about. But because then you get people go, well, maybe it's a translation thing and they're lying to you. Maybe, but then you... how do you know anything in that regard?
Yeah. Mental stop signs.
Yeah, and I don't like that. And like, as I've talked to like elsewhere about, when we're like trying to build a better world, we need to understand where things went wrong elsewhere, like previous attempts. We don't have to like obsess over them, because some people do, don't they? Like, we've got to recreate the Soviet Union or whatever. Like, no, we don't need to do that. By the same token, we also need to know where it went wrong and learn from how these things do go wrong.
Yeah.
You know, if you have your revolution, like, what happens next? What can go wrong there? What can derail it? It's you know, all stuff that's worth considering. Start to wrap up, you know, in the next few minutes. That's all right, Loomis.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not at work this week, so it's not like a rush, but you know, still.
Yeah.
Not real too late tonight. So much glass in my inventory. If you fell down, you'd be in a terrible mess. Can't believe I've met somebody else who plays Seven Kingdoms and has a great funness for it. What a game! What a game it is.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, it said that the engine is open source now. Has been for a decade.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good stuff.
I think in the same true about Command & Conquer Red Alert. I remember hearing that once, but I don't know if that's true. Or like at least it's available online.
I don't know.
I still want to be able to play Twin World again.
Yeah.
That's
I just
the
look
goal.
into emulating that once, but it's not trivial.
Right. I've seen like there are
Yeah.
like abandonware sites, aren't they? But they always feel shady to me. Like I might also downloading viruses because it is technically abandonware, right? It's,
Yeah.
you know, the company's long gone and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I was like, what else am I downloading with the game files?
Yeah, but the issue I was running into is that the game files alone aren't enough to get it running on a modern
Of course,
computer.
yeah. You need like all kinds of emulation, don't you?
Yeah.
I don't know, some of these places like have kind of emulated it, but again, what else are you downloading there? I enjoyed it so much as a kid. You always wonder, like, does it hold up, or is it just because I were a kid?
Yeah.
So it seemed fun, you know.
Oh, that does remind me. I had a topic I was going to bring up
No.
based on something I overheard earlier while I was sorting the animals.
Oh yeah.
You were talking about how you'd pay £50 for a model, but not for a game.
Yeah.
And whether that makes you a hypocrite.
Yes. But it makes me Hippocrates.
Yes. My question is, how much do you think that your feelings on that are influenced by the fact that in 10 years that £50 game will probably be £20, but that £50 model will still be £50?
Yeah, I think that's a big factor as well. Yeah, like I know I can wait, and the game will get cheaper. The model will stay the same price because it's not running out in that regard, is it?
Yeah.
I think that's a good point. Like, it don't matter. I mean, in fact, the model may get more expensive. You know, things get adjusted for inflation, don't they, from time to time?
Yeah.
Every so often, GW does one of their posts of like, you know how the energy bills have gone ridiculous? Well, yeah, like that affects us too. So I know they can tank it on the profits, but I also know that like no business is actually going to, are they?
Yeah.
And if it's a below inflation price increase, I've got a little bit of sympathy for it. Like, if you're like, our costs have gone up 17%, so we're raising prices 5%.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right, fair. Which is what happened, by the way. Because like Brexit's hit GW really hard as well, relatively speaking.
Yeah.
I've done it again. I've got random bits of glass I have to like clean up, I think. Okay, I'm going to do that, and then we'll sort of... Because I can't just leave it. I'm not just going to break it. It's just one or two. Could just break it, I guess. Like, doesn't really matter that much, does it? But then again, I've got the tool to do it. It's just I've got to be careful because it's so vulnerable.
Yeah.
But yeah, because I was saying it just from the look of it, like the way it I kind of want to play Baldur's Gate 3, but it's 50 quid, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
Mainly, I just thought the character creator looks really fun. It's a bit like playing like a role playing game. It's a computer version of 5e, so it's like playing a role playing game, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's a lot of the dialogue and stuff looks really fun. So, but it's 50 quid, so I can't justify it. Ranger or Druid, I think, is what I'd go for, by the way.
Yeah.
They both sound fun. I don't know. I know nothing about it. It's just the very concept is what I find fun, you know. Because Rangers and the Tolkien thing, they pinched into D&D.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just Aragorn. It's a class based off Aragorn. Those. I know there are other Rangers, but like, come on. I forgot his name now. Halbarad? Yeah, Halbarad is like really cool.
He was the banner bearer, right?
Yeah, that's him.
Yeah.
He's Aragorn's essentially second in command.
Yeah.
Until like he's leading the Grey Company until he meets up with Aragorn. He's got the banner from Arwen. And then when they get to the paths of the dead, he looks at as they approach the door. He says, "This is an evil door, and my death lies beyond it," and then just walks through. How cool is he?
Yeah.
Like, he has some like revelation of his own death, and he's just like, "Okay, sure, we've got a job to do." Ow! I fell off. They're just very calmly go, "This is an evil door, and my death lies beyond it." Well, but yeah, it's a class of Aragorns.
Hopefully they've improved the Ranger a bit for the game.
Yeah, are they not so good?
Yeah, I played one for a bit in a 5e campaign. Like they were fine in earlier editions, but yeah, in 5e the ranger is famously underpowered.
Ah, no.
Like painfully so. It's by far the weakest of the not just that it's the weakest of the starter of the basic classes, but that is there's nothing else in its tier. It's very much a full level below anything else.
Oh, no.
Yeah. I was playing the animal companion based version of the ranger.
That's what I've done too.
Yeah, my character concept was that this was a military setting. My guy was like a canine handler.
Yeah.
For a scouting unit. So like my animal companion was a scent dog, and I put a lot of my skills into like tracking and stuff.
Nice.
But yeah, what I was finding through the levels that I played as a ranger before I gave up on it, like I didn't really have a lot I could do.
Oh no.
Like in combat, I was like a fighter with no fighter abilities. Like all I'd do each turn was walk up to an enemy and do a basic attack.
Oh no.
Like yeah, my combat special abilities were that I could get my dog to attack things, but unlike previous editions where the dog had where your animal companion had its own turn that you controlled it in 5e, if you want your animal companion to do something, it replaces your action.
Oh.
So I can attack something, or my dog can attack something, and I'm bigger and have an axe, so I do a lot more damage than the dog ever will.
Yeah, I get you.
So there's no reason to ever use the dog in combat. And also the dog's super squishy. It's got a lot less HP than me, so I park the dog as far away from the fighting and then walk up and hit things each turn.
Yeah, that's no fun.
Did not do. I had nothing special that I could do as a character. All of my special abilities were pretty much completely useless in combat, and I wanted to play my ranger as a very out of combat character as well. The focus on tracking. I want to be the guy who finds the enemy before the battle and gives us a chance to set things up to have the advantage. But there's not a lot of rules in the way of that either.
No.
Like there's no real rules for using my animal companion for tracking or anything. The animal companion is strictly a combat thing, and it's a worse combat thing than me as a fighter without fighter ability.
Oh no, that is functionally useless, isn't it?
Yeah. Playing as a basic ranger in 5e is absolutely miserable.
Yeah, that's that's not good.
You're the worst class at everything.
Challenge mode.
Yeah.
But anyway, we should be sort of moving towards wrapping up there, I think, if that's okay. Has you got any final thoughts, Lewis, that you'd like to put out?
Historically, arguably, druid bards fulfilled the role of priest for druids. Going way back to the thing I brought up at the start of the session. That's my artistic focus for tonight.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Like the druids didn't go out and preach; they stayed home and practiced the mysteries. But the bards studied under the druids, and then went out and taught other people the things that the public were allowed to know.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, bard and druid's both like a Welsh thing.
Yeah,
ancient British and then sort of Welsh.
Like in a lot of ways, like the basic training for a druid and a bard were the same.
Yeah.
They'd learn the basics, and then they'd choose what path they went down. They were like, in a way, they were two different versions of the same job.
Yeah, it's a bit like monks and friars in the Catholic Church. Monks live in a monastery and do monk stuff. Friars go out into the community and do friar stuff. But yeah, like this, you start off in the
Yeah.
basic thing. You're not quite a priest, but you have like basic religious training, as it were, basic seminary kind of training. And then some of you go and live in seclusion and a life of making manuscripts and such, and others go around preaching and doing similar things, and occasionally get appointed to be an inquisitor because you can trust them because they're friars. Is basically the medieval logic.
Yeah. It's just an aspect you don't see very often in fiction, and yet I think it's one that has a lot of potential for a character to be developed around.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and there's plenty of scope there.
Right.
Yes. See, I don't want to I've started doing it because I don't want to like cut you off when you've still got thoughts you want to get out, because I know that's annoying. I also know I felt like you would appreciate the opportunity to like finish off the train of thought.
I do. I've started to enjoy these Loomis's final thoughts sections that you provide.
Good. I'm glad, because I hoped you would.
I frequently have some little thing that I couldn't get out earlier that I'm quietly stewing on, but doesn't fit into the conversation anymore.
Yeah. It's like I don't know, addenda, or like an appendix or something.
Yeah.
All right, that's everything. I'll be back on Sunday at around 1800 BST. We're going to be painting the Wild Predator. Carrying on painting the Wild Predator, I should say. And we should be back a week today at around 2000 BST for more Minecraft. Is that right, Loomis?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Excellent. So, I'll let you say goodbyes.
Yeah. Been good, everybody. Have a good time zone, and see you next time.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed that. Thank you very for kept us company, and thank you, Loomis, as always. I hope
Thank you for having me here.
Oh, no problem. Always a pleasure. I hope you've all enjoyed that, and I hope to see you all soon. Until then, take care, and namarie.